Hi gardeners, great lesson for you today. We're going to talk about how we protect our fall crops. Remember, the weather is changing and this is oftentimes the last chance for insects to start putting eggs on plants. We sure don't want that. And here's one way we do it. This cold frame, which is designed for winter crops, also provides a barrier from low-flying insects. Some of the insects, mites, even little spiders will try to lay their eggs on lettuce, and here this about 8-inch wall, they get it and they go, oh no, the Great Wall, and they go around instead of over. Now to show you, these 7 plants here, we harvested 15 ounces of lettuce in these very large leaves that are perfect for wraps. And so there's not a spot on these, whereas over in the main crop, we got a lot of lettuce, but we also noticed that there's a lot of eggs on them. We've got a lot of cleaning up to do. So we're going to go take a look at just some other parts of the garden. Ways to protect your garden in the fall is to plant fall-friendly crops. Like right here, we have golden beets. Golden beets won't care if there's a frost. They'll be glad to grow well into November, and that will hit our 45 to 50 day point. If we don't get good beets, we still have very good beet greens, and that is just as nutritious as the beet in many cases, and cooked with other greens, that'll make a nice addition as a side. We also have younger lettuce here, so that when that lettuce over in bed 5 gets tired, we have backup lettuce to come in. Right here we have a bed of squash, of butternut squash, that are desperately trying to get ripe. Now we have covered this during our first frost, which came a couple of weeks ago. And because we covered it with an Agribon fleece, as you can see, these are in good shape here, and we're just waiting for this. If you could zoom in on that. We're just waiting for this stem. As you can see, it was green and now it's starting to tend to brown. When it turns fully brown and our thumbnail test doesn't pierce the skin, then we'll be ready to start harvesting. We've got about 200 pounds. Here's one that's farther along, a prettier shade, but you can see it's still green here on the stem, so we're going to let that go as late as we can. We don't have any frost forecast over the next 7 days, so we're good to just leave them out in the field. If it starts getting down into the low 40s or upper 30s, we'll cover it with the Agribon agricultural fleece. That'll give it about 6 degrees of protection, and it'll also provide a barrier to just a basic settling soft frost, and we should be okay. There's a couple of them over here that were not protected, and you can see what happened. This frost has not killed it, but it has certainly left it discolored, and there's part of this when it ripens that might have to be cut off. But this is where our fleece ended, was right here, and so these few here caught a little bit of effect. Now we're going to go over to the crops we've already harvested and show you what happens in the fall when you grow plants you normally grow in the spring. In this case, I'm going to show you carrots, and I'm going to show you radishes, and even some tomatoes that are still coming up. Come on, folks. You remember that protected lettuce? This is a perfect leaf for making, say, a wrap. Yeah, I ought to be selling this to P.F. Chang's. And this is pretty standard. As you can see, it's not an exception. A lot of these are just, there's practically no mark on them at all. Just a couple of little places that might just have been where dirt kicked up from the last rain. Now, one of the problems we have here in coastal Virginia with carrots is in the spring the grubs are active, and lots of times we'll pull up carrots and there'll be big grub bites and are mushy in them. But we are growing carrots right now, and here is a half-pound carrot if you include the weight of the greens, and of course that's the way they're sold in farmers markets and things like that. So this part of the carrot alone is probably 6 ounces. This is called a Danvers half long, and it sure doesn't look like it's half long to me. And this is a thinner carrot called a knot, of course originally from France. These are more of your grocery store kind of carrots. So we have both kinds of carrots growing. The Danvers tends to be a little sweeter. The knot tends to be better for cooking as a side, okay? And then we're growing radishes right now. This is our second crop of radishes since the summer was over. And as you can see, a 2.5 ounce radish. And don't forget, the leaves are edible. Once again, I would cook them because they have those little burrs on them, and it just feels like fur on your tongue. But if you cook them, that goes away. So you could cook this along with spinach or some other cooked vegetable on the side. And once again, the leaves are just as nutritious as the bulb. So even tomatoes are still growing, and we got probably the last harvest of our jade beans. We had a few beans that survived with our application of neem oil that knocked off the bugs that were chewing them up. So we've got beans, radishes, tomatoes, carrots, and an ever so good lettuce, don't you know? It makes a nice fan. All of which proves just because the weather's getting colder doesn't mean you can't grow your own food. Bye, folks.